Hello dear traders, welcome to the Trading Hero channel for a weekly review of trading results. This week, all portfolios made a profit. Let's take a closer look at each of them. The $5,000 portfolio in the first version made 0.5% profit this week. The 5K portfolio in version 2 brought 0.8% of profit. The 5K portfolio in version 3 yielded 0.4% profit. The 10K portfolio in the first version 0.4%, 10K portfolio in version 2 0.3%, 10K portfolio in version 3 almost 0.5%, 20,000 portfolio 0.3% profit, 50K version 0.4% profit, 100K portfolio 0.3%, and the 200K portfolio 0.4% profit. Now let's move to MetaTrader and take a closer look at trading. Let's start with the first currency pair. This is the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar on the hourly time frame. Each vertical line separates one trading day, and with the gray rectangle we highlighted the area of the previous week. The downtrend that we have had on the market for the past 3 weeks is slowly coming to an end for this currency pair. Since we have local highs and lows this week that are already started to rise, we can see that a certain upward trend is building. But given the fact that we have a very strong resistance level ahead, which we tried to break through twice last week and twice this week, there is every chance that the market will still move down. But it's important to look at the two main currency pairs that are here. First of all, the Australian dollar, as it is still in a global uptrend. And if it gets stronger than the Canadian dollar, then of course the currency pair will move up. In any case, we have only a few positions opened as the bulk of the trades were closed this week. This week's profit amounted to $729. If you look at the chart, you'll see that the market has been consolidating for the last 2 weeks. Therefore, we are waiting for a breakout and exit from it, and we will trade according to the market movements. The next currency pair is the Australian dollar against the New Zealand dollar. This asset has a very interesting picture, as we have had a clear downward correction for several weeks, unlike the previous currency pair. On Friday, there was a publication of non-farm payrolls at 3:30. As you can see, the market has started to move more actively and try to go beyond the current consolidation. And given the fact that there is a pretty good pattern, we made a false breakout of this consolidation and bounced off previous support levels. There are quite good chances that the trend will change and the market will start to grow, given the global trend for the Australian dollar is upward. This week's profit was $205. We currently have several open trades for sale. The next currency pair is the Australian dollar against the US dollar. As we have already said, we had an upward trend in all assets, but this currency pair plays the main role. Speaking of the technical situation, this week the previous local highs were updated, but the music didn't last very long, as the market started to move down on the same day. If we look at the market's reaction to non-farm payrolls, we can see that the market has not decided where it will move. There is a local upward trend, and we are within a more global upward trend, so it is likely that the market will continue to move up. This week, only 2 trades were closed, and the profit amounted to $28. The next currency pair is the euro against the British pound. There were also a few trades on this asset, and we had a downtrend. But this week, as we can see, the market has moved into a consolidation zone. It's too early to say that the market is starting an uptrend because we still have lows that are rising, and as for the highs, we need at least one more clear high that will exceed the previous resistance zone and show us that the market will still move up. Then we will talk about buying. For now, we are waiting for the market to break out of the current consolidation. In fact, the price has been in the trading zone of the previous week 2 sell trades were closed this week, and this week's profit amounted to $77. The next currency pair is the British pound against the US dollar. There are 2 pieces of news on this asset. One is bad, the other is good. The bad news is that we have seen new local highs. This suggests the buyers are still quite strong in the market. As you may recall, in April we took sell positions using one of the algorithms. Now we are looking forward to closing them, but we need a correction to do so, and the correction should be significant, more than 4,000 pips. And now for the good news. After updating the highs on Thursday, we can see that the market has reacted very clearly, and unlike the Australian dollar against the US dollar, the reaction to non-farm payrolls is more pronounced. We have a downward trend locally after the US unemployment data came out. If you look at the local trend, it was broken even before the news, and after the news there was a clear decline. Therefore, we have every chance of the correction that we have been waiting for. Let's move to the 4-hour time frame and scroll through the chart to 2022. That's where the resistance level we recently hit is located. We can see that there is a serious resistance zone here, from which the market bounced down several times. And let me remind you that this is the 4-hour time frame, meaning that each vertical line divides one trading week. That's why we were in this range for months in 2022, and after that the price fell down. So we have every chance that this correction will start from these levels, and it will be deep enough to close our trades with a take profit, and for this we need the 4,000 pip decline. All other algorithms were trading rather weakly this week, as there was not much volatility and we were in the trading zone of the previous week for all this week. Only on Thursday was there an attempt to break through the local high. This week's profit amounted to $84. The next currency pair is the British pound against the Canadian dollar. Here, the downward trend is already more pronounced, although this week the price was in the trading zone of the previous week, and local lows have not yet been updated. But the price hasn't reached the previous week's highs either. Therefore, the advantage of sellers in this currency pair is encouraging. It also suggests that despite the fact that there is a global upward trend, the market is gradually starting to decline and move downward. We also closed a few trades on this currency pair, and this week's profit amounted to $67. The next currency pair is the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. We have only one algorithm trading on this asset, no trades were closed this week, and the last currency pair this week is the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. This asset is continuing the flat that the market entered in early April. At the beginning of the week, there was an attempt to gain a foothold at the previous local highs, but after failing, the market dropped quite a bit in price, which allowed us to close the previous open sell trades and enter new buying trades. Compared to other currency pairs, this asset was quite productive, with a profit of $550. If we look at the situation globally, we can see that we also have a chain of the sell trades from the previous months, which we are also waiting to close after the correction. If you look at this movement in terms of the depths of the correction, we can see that the deepest correction was at the level of 30%. It is still a very strong level of support, but given that the market has been in consolidation for a month and a half and hasn't been able to rise above the March high, from my point of view, this correction has every chance of continuing, which will allow us to close our existing trades with a profit. So, we are waiting for a correction in the British pound and the New Zealand dollar. Thank you for your attention and see you in the next video.